Hi everyone. This is our first time of recording an information session for Madam Community College, and I just thought I'd answer a few of the questions that are being forwarded through the front office, and I've invited Kai Ger here, who's our SRC chairperson, to interact with me. So yes, and this will be better than me sending you an essay that you may not read. So we'll get started.
So, is there anything you want to say at the outset?
Yes, most importantly, and I can't stress this enough, please take this seriously. We need to be honest with our children and let them know that good people from all over the world are doing their best to keep us safe and secure, but also that they have a responsibility themselves. Okay, they need to do what is they're told. They need to do what is directed, and what is recommended as well. We go by the advice of the Education Department, and the Education Department goes by the advice of the Health Department. And with this, we can be fearful of what coronavirus or what COVID-19 brings to the school and to our lives, or we can see it as an opportunity. You know, terrible things are happening, but my staff have never learned so fast about IT. Some of our students, they're interacting with their teachers through email, through communications, through Teams, etc. That wasn't possible a week ago, so it's doing really well. I also want to thank everyone who's connected with our school, who's working flat strap to make sure that the learning continues and is ready for next term.
What is the latest?
So the latest is there are 3 important things that we must continue to do. We need to maintain social distancing, and I understand that we're not 1.5 meters apart, but the camera wouldn't be able to hear me if we were, so that's why we're not doing that. But we also need to have regular hygiene, washing hands, washing surfaces, making sure that we're staying apart as much as we can and staying as clean, and also staying home. Okay, it's hard to be home. For more than, say, a day, 2 days, you know, people are getting sick of it already. That doesn't mean we stop. We need to continue. We, as a school, we don't want non-essential personnel on site. Okay, and so if you don't need to come to site, please don't. Wave goodbye to your children from the car. Make sure they get in the gate. If you don't need to come into the front office, don't. Just give us a call. So schools continue to be an exemption from many of the federal rules and laws that have been set out, but that doesn't mean that a school is the place to get together and mingle. Just because the playground's shut, just because the skate park's shut, doesn't mean we should be sitting here in each other's pockets and socialising. Okay.
So what's happening in week 11?
Week 11, so next week. Next week is 4 days of pupil-free days. So during pupil-free days, we wouldn't normally set any work. The teachers will all be here or working at home and making sure that we're ready for term 2. Okay, you shouldn't expect your children to be interacting with their teachers next week or turning up for lessons. They're pupil-free days so we can get ready for term 2.
What will term 2 look like?
Term 2. So term 2, there are terms that you might want to learn. Learning from home, learning from site. It will be different. Teachers are planning to use various online platforms such as Seesaw, Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, and email to make sure our students don't miss out. It will depend on what families nominate to do in the survey that is being sent out today. Okay? It's essential that all families complete that survey so that we can become organised and make sure that staffing ratios are adequate and ensure that social distancing can occur in term 2 as well. So in short, your child will not be disadvantaged by you electing for them to learn at home. We're working towards the same learning plan for those who are on site as for those who are learning from home. Families are strongly encouraged to keep their children at home and support their children to learn online. Okay. You're not their teacher, I know, and you're not expected to know how to teach them everything. For students or families who work in essential services and for those who are vulnerable, the school is still open. Okay. However, note that we're not a babysitting service, we're a learning institution. The focus of the students' time at school will be learning. Depending on the numbers of students who are present, groups might be merged or classes might be merged whilst ensuring social distancing. Staff will regularly make contact with families throughout the week and through various means, and the canteen will not operate for at least the first 5 weeks of next term, and we'll revisit that later on in the term.
So what will happen for, say, students' tests, etc.?
SACE is a big question. So the SACE board will let us know and will let teachers know and students know. Okay, no student will be disadvantaged by this, knowing that this is a worldwide pandemic. It is not just Manham. So therefore, SACE, which is our state, has to have solutions for this, and will work with you on them. Okay, depending on the sub-school involved, students will submit their learning differently. It might be online, or it might be through snail mail, through the old postal service, or it might be you taking a photo of it and uploading it to Seesaw of their work. There's many ways that we can work on different ways of submitting work. If the child is learning at home, we strongly recommend that you establish a daily routine. This could align to the current timetable that you have, where most teachers will be available during those learning times, and we'll keep you in touch. We'll keep in touch with you about that. So,
What if circumstances change and I want my child to learn from home or learn on site?
Yeah, the biggest thing is just give us notice. You can imagine that if I've got most of my staff learning from home, because that's what we're recommended to do, and I know that there are 50 students going to be here, but 350 turn up, I've got to make sure that I've got staffing ratios ready for those students. So give us notice. Similarly, if things change, which they change every 24 hours at the moment, you may choose to change from learning at school or learning on site to learning at home. Let us know. Otherwise, we'll be chasing up saying, why is your child absent? Okay. So continued open communication is extremely important during this time of uncertainty.
What about technology and computers? How many hours on computers will be expected?
Yes, so for families who indicated in the Computer and Internet Access Survey that it's an issue, we'll be in contact with you soon if we haven't already. A healthy mix of screen time and non-screen time could look like a couple of hours mixed of computer time, physical activity, reading a book, or working with a paper and a pen. There's big concerns about the misuse of social media, cyber safety, and excessive screen time for our young people in the coming months. Please continue to make good judgments about limiting access and to a negotiable time period each day. It's very hard to get kids back on track when they've become accustomed to playing online games all night. Take the modem to bed with you, or change the password each day, whatever it takes to make sure that you are making sure there's a routine for your child. Likewise, during the day, phones can be on silent. Phones can be, in another room while they're doing their learning. We all know we can work a lot better with distractions. It might be that your child completes their computer-based learning in the first couple of hours of the day because there's no one else around them. They've submitted it online, and then their time is up to you about what they can do.
So I heard that some staff are and will be working from home. How does that work in a school?
Yeah, it's tricky, but we do have some staff who fit into the various categories in regards to vulnerabilities, and as a responsible employer, I need to work with them to ensure that their risk is minimised. There are also other staff who have caring responsibilities, whether it's for their own young children or for elderly parents or vulnerable people who are affected by the various restrictions with COVID-19. This would mean that the person's working from home and being available to support students learning at home through the various technologies. Or it might be that they take the leave options that are available to them. We negotiate that with them on an individual basis.
What if I don't know how to operate my ICT or forget a password?
Same as I do. We call the IT department. So what we do is they're available, and if you want to set up your IT before the end of the term, ring the front office, make an appointment, and they're available for 30-minute slots. Make a time and they'll help you set up. You can do it by the phone, or you might want to bring in your computer and say, how do I do this? Make a time. You can imagine that if 30 people turned up, we can't socially distance everyone, and we've only got 2 IT staff usually at any one time, so we can't have 30 people being supported. So make a time and we'll give you a hand. That will work. Yeah, that's that.
So how can I get in touch with my child's teachers?
Yeah, social media, not social media, but the different media that we have available. Email, Google Classroom, Seesaw. You could write to them, or ring the front office and they'll get them to contact you when they're available. With email, during working hours, it would be good, and responses during working hours will come. Some of our younger students this week have got their emails for the first time, and they've emailed their teachers 10 times in one day. That's not reasonable for the teacher to respond to each and every one of those. So please, limit it to what is reasonable, and we will get back to you within a reasonable time frame. Reasonable seems to be the key word there. Let us know if any of your contact details change, and that way that's how we will get in contact with you, and you can get in contact with us.
What if my children don't engage with the learning that's presented to them?
So parents really need to try to encourage their students and their children to engage with the learning. If a student's not engaging, the school will be making contact with the family to determine the best way forwards. Alternatively, we'll be here as a contact. We can see if they've engaged with Google Classroom, if they're reacting to a feed, if they've uploaded their work, if they've put the photos in. If we hear nothing, we'll be in contact. Because be aware that the gaps in the learning that may occur if they haven't done anything in the whole term will be significant if they've done nothing. So really try to encourage them or get in contact with us to work out a way that we can engage them.
What about SACE?
SACE. So SACE stops for no one, but if students engage with us, we can work with them in the SACE board on how to move forwards. Kieran Yench has emailed all students and families about contact details, about how things might work, about the various platforms. All the year 10 to 12 students have access to their assignments and tasks for the next term. They all have the email addresses of all their teachers. There's no reason for them not to be able to interact. Okay, so SACE, we're good.
What about wellbeing and mental health during this time?
Yeah, it is a hard time. Some of our families have lost their jobs. The uncertainty of not knowing what changes are going to be made tomorrow. It's really quite hard, and it's unlike anything we've ever experienced before. So prioritise mental health and wellbeing throughout the coming months for both yourself and for others. So if you know someone is isolated, don't go around to their house, give them a call. Okay, give them an email. I know that we've got a class of students today who are writing to residents in a nursing home to say how you're going, creating pen friends, that sort of thing, how we can stay in touch with each other. It's distance isolated, not socially isolated. For others, we do have access or you've got access to things like Lifeline, Kids Helpline, Regional Access and Headspace, which are all available online, and their phone numbers are there as well.
Any closing comments at all?
Two things. Number one, we can only change and control what we can control. What we can't, it's almost like we put our worries aside. We can't worry about what we can't change. And so we can concern ourselves with the learning of our students, making sure that they're doing the socially responsible thing of socially isolating, and making sure that we've got everything available for them. If we can't change it, we won't worry about it. We know that people are going to get sick from this virus. We know that people may pass away. But we now are worrying about the learning, and we'll make sure that it's available to you. Thank you to everyone who's doing the right thing, families, staff, those who are caring for others. Some of our staff have had to leave their young children with others so that they can be here getting ready for term 2. So thank you, and together we'll all get through this. Yep. Thanks everyone.
Thanks.